Welcome to Smash Writing, Paul, Justin, and today we are back with another original versus remake. And who's up at bat? 13 Ghost. Yikers.
Spooky Ghost. Spooky Ghost. That's definitely the first one.
We'll kick off, of course, with the original. So, give us the rundown of the original.
Well, the movie opens up with a guy going through a museum tour, taking some kids. It looks like students through a tour of a museum. When he gets a phone call from his wife, so he goes over. And he didn't pay his bills. All of his furniture is being repossessed on Buck's birthday.
Not because they couldn't afford it, because he forgot to pay it 3 months.
The bill. It was like 3 months late.
Yeah. First off, that was a horrible wife. Like, when you...
That was entertaining. I love that scene.
It was a good scene. It was a real good scene.
But you see Buck wishing on his birthday cake that he wants furniture that no one can take.
Oh.
And he gets a telegram from Benjamin Rush wanting a meet. His parents are like, we owe more money. Is this a collector? Who are you? And it turns out his uncle left him his house and all of his furniture. So,
the rich uncle that he hasn't seen in like 13, 14 years.
Yeah. So they go up to, they manage to move into this house. And it's haunted by ghosts. His uncle collected ghosts. And Ben comes up to see them to get the paperwork signed up. It hits on the daughter.
Yeah.
But
it's a different time frame. It's a different time frame.
What's it like? Yeah, we get the weird tension between them two, and his son finds a Ouija board, and the ghosts want to kill them. And that night we start seeing the ghosts, and the dad finds the glasses and he sees the ghosts. You find a book in Latin, and this his co-worker translates it for him. And he tells him, like, no, this is real. Your uncle was the foregone expert on this matter. He captured 11 ghosts, and this is not a joke. Plato being number 1, his uncle was number 12. And the 13th ghost is blank. His wife calls him home immediately. And when he does that, you see the kitchen kind of going nuts, and them and the dad, her and the dad are having a conversation. When Buck comes in, he's like, you might want to move. And they reluctantly take a few steps back just in time for a butcher knife to come flying and peg itself into the wall where they were standing. And they're like, oh, the maid told me all about him. He gets kind of angry. And Cyrus ends up following where the ghost leads, which leads to nowhere because we jump to Medea dating the lawyer.
Creepy.
Yeah. And that night we see this legs covered in cobwebs, and they're stalking Medea. They scare her out of the room. And we see Hilda, the maid, everyone keeps calling the witch, reopen the window in her room. Mm-hmm. And the next day, though, we see Buck sliding down the banister and some money falls out. It takes him a moment to realize it, and when he does, the first person he sees is the lawyer. And the lawyer's like, let's keep this a secret between us. But we get the seance that night, because the lawyer's trying to talk them into leaving. And he almost does it whenever they decide, like, no, there's money hidden in this house somewhere. We got to find that money first. And they decide they're going to hold a seance that night to get a hold of the uncle. But in the meantime, Buck does find where the money's hidden in the stairs. But he's keeping the secret from everyone, and he tells Ben about it. And Ben tries to kill Buck that night, but a ghost scares Buck awake, and Buck moves out from under the bed, and Ben slides into it. And the next day you see them counting all their money. And it seems to be over, except one more ghost is still lingering. And that's where the movie ends.
Didn't they kill Ben, though?
Yeah, Ben gets killed in the back.
Wouldn't he be the 13th ghost?
Well, I guess so. They don't really talk about how the importance of the 13th ghost
really is, yeah. Alright, let's break this
I
movie
wonder
down.
if this is the first movie where they did the you have to stay at the house to keep the house.
What do you mean?
Somehow you get that you can get all the money if you stay a night in this haunted house. And here, this will is they must stay at this house. If they leave the house, it goes to the government and becomes a park.
It might be that.
So I wonder if this is the first movie to do that.
Maybe.
So I don't remember House on Haunted Hill. But, and the writing's fine. Everything about this is just kind of there. The 13th Ghost doesn't make any sense because that doesn't have any play.
Yeah. They kind of they ran with they kind of took an idea and ran with it. First, they did we know we don't judge different time frames.
Yeah, we try not to be too angry about the effects, but all
you
this
still
pushes
have
the limit here.
But you still have to look compared to its predecessors of that time frame and so forth. Those ghosts were
I swear to God, the one ghost was just a science skeleton kind of deal.
Yeah.
You see a science room. The ghosts were rough.
That was the roughest part to me because if you're going to do a movie called 13 Ghosts, your ghosts are your main selling point of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I found creepy was the whole attorney and the daughter's relationship. Understand, they don't give her an exact age, but they do put her in high school. They don't give Ben Rush an exact age, but you do have to understand how long it takes to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he does make clear that he's been around Cyrus's uncle for quite some time.
Yeah.
So you're probably pushing Ben in his 30s at this point. I'm going to ballpark there's probably a 15-year difference between the daughter and the lawyer.
Yeah.
That's creepy. And it didn't need it. That little subplot, and I understand, it's a movie, it's acting, it's not real life. I get it. But that little story arc didn't even need to be in the movie. The movie, first off, the comedy, made me laugh a little bit when
when the furniture's being repossessed was a good scene.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Here's the crazy thing. As much as I did enjoy the comedy, I'm also going to knock the film for its comedy. I get it, this is maybe the first horror comedy movie of all time or something.
I doubt it.
Whatever the case may be. But you're talking about death, you're talking about inheritance. I think the comedy should have been left out. But when they added it, it was fine. It made me laugh, so it wasn't a miss. I felt like the story didn't need comedy. You just learned that your rich uncle died, in all sense you're losing furniture. You're falling on hard times at this point. You got a son, and his birthday wishes for to have furniture. That's sad.
But I feel like they could have easily solved all their problems by just selling stuff inside the house.
Yeah. Or, just not skipping out on 3 months of bills.
Yeah, well, that mistake's already been done and made. But you could have easily just, not stayed there, but sold everything in the house.
Well, I don't understand. Didn't Cyrus establish, they had the money? They weren't rich, but because it comes out, it's not like,
I think that he forgot, and then they had to use that money for other bills.
Maybe. But still, I feel like, the graphics for the ghosts were bad. The story arc with the daughter and lawyer was bad.
The happy ever after that happens here kind of just happens. It's we're done now. Time to go.
I feel like
over.
They hit their budget with this one, and it was just kind of okay, it's over. And as you were saying before, they didn't talk about the meaning of the 13th ghost.
Yeah.
And I will tell you another part that kind of gives me a negative mark about this movie particularly. So the opening scene, the opening credits, they're introducing the ghost, right? You're automatically thinking it's going to be a straight horror movie, and then you start having those comedy elements, and it's okay.
I don't care about a horror movie having comedy elements. That's fine. You're breaking the tension, and it's easier to get you involved in the character if you can relate to them, and joking is the easiest way to pull somebody in. Well, that and drama. They went with which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
They went with the more happier approach to get you to relate to this family.
But then, like I said, the story arc was of what was the concept of the 13th ghost. There's nothing there. I feel like they just hit the ground running and they ran with an idea, and they just fell on their face. Now it's not saying as much as I just gave it a couple of bad marks, or I didn't think this was a bad film.
No.
It wasn't a bad
It
film.
was enjoyable for the most part.
I think I would go that enjoyable.
But it had some really bad negatives, and it holds it back.
So, that being said,
Final grade?
what's your final grade?
C minus.
See? You know what? For someone who criticized me for being too harsh, I'm giving it a C as well. It's an average film. Had they completed the idea of what the 13th Ghost meant and so forth, I think it would obviously be higher up because the story. But like you said, it literally
There's stuff missing in this. You don't quite have a complete story here.
Right. So yeah, I'm going to give it a C for the original. Let's go into the more. No, I want to say I want us to talk about it. Let's go into the remake.
The remake. Hold on.
Oh. That's right. You bought you brought those glasses. My God, you're an idiot.
Got to put them back on. Alright, remake. 2001. And we start off with the team showing up at a junkyard. They're setting up everything, getting equipment out, and we meet Cyrus and a psychic named Dennis. And Dennis wants to get out. He does not want to be here. He wants out of here. But Cyrus is like, oh, no. We have a deal. Come on now. Where is he? Stop taking your medicine. Let's go. Cyrus puts his hand on the... Dennis puts his hand on the ground. And he gets angry. He's like, you told me there were 9 victims. There was at least 40 here. Cyrus is like, no. I told you there were 9 when he was alive. He's added substance. They call him the Breaker. It's not his name. His name's Juggernaut.
Okay.
Anyway, but Dennis tries to take like a sneak peek on Cyrus, but Cyrus is like, no, don't touch me. But they end up catching these 2 people, Damien and Kalina, who are fighting for ghost rights. And they kind of slip about the 13th ghost, and Dennis is like, oh no, you told me 12, what do you mean 13? And Cyrus is like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. And they have them to release the bait. And it's just a bathe of blood through the junkyard. And they put down the cube, and enters the Juggernaut. Juggernaut. I'm not calling him the Breaker. And the Juggernaut just starts taking out everyone in his path. One guy runs into the cube to try to get away from him, but he follows him into the cube and just starts throwing that guy around, and they manage to capture this ghost. But in the path, Dennis is going along trying to find people. Damon's been killed, and Cyrus has been taken out. And we jump to, we see Kathy and Bobby playing. We see the mom and the husband, Arthur. Perfect life. And as the camera starts panning, you hear the tragedy playing out. There had been a fire, and the mom was killed in the fire, and then you see all these bills piling up, and then there's in this small little apartment. And we meet the family. We got Arthur, the dad, Maggie, the babysitter, Kathy, the big sister, and I didn't write down the name. Oh no.
Probably was Buck.
I don't think his name was Buck. We'll call him the boy. Anyway, actually I did call him something somewhere. I did write his name down. Anyway, they're visited by Lawyer Ben, who's got the video will from their Uncle Cyrus. And Arthur hadn't spoken to since he was a kid because the family got upset with him for squandering the family fortune. But Cyrus has died, and he is leaving his house and all of his earthly possessions to Arthur. So they take a trip up that night to see the house, and when they get there, we see Dennis is already there. He's posing as a power guy. Bobby. And on the driving to this house, they're playing the song Access by Tricky. That's an A+ movie right there alone. But the house is a immaculate glass house with all these Latin incantations over it. So Dennis wants to go look at the breakers because, according to him, the house is draining the power out of like 5,000 houses in the area. Ben doesn't want to let him in, but Arthur lets him in. So while he's off, Dennis goes off trying to. What he's really trying to do is try to find the money that Cyrus owes him. While Ben and Arthur go to sign papers, Arthur tells them, "Stay here in this room," which they listen to for about a fraction of a moment. Meanwhile, the back of Dennis he's in the basement, and he realizes all the ghosts they've captured are in the basement. So he goes up to Arthur to try to warn him, like, you need to get you and your family out of the big glass house. I'm leaving. Come on, let's go. And he doesn't believe it, and Dennis ends up having like a psychic premonition and drops him. And when Arthur touches his back, he sees the tragedy that befell Arthur. And all of this, Ben disappears. And we see Ben walking around in the basement, and he starts the house, which releases the first ghost, the angry princess, who takes out Ben, and then she moves upstairs to her room, where Kathy is currently. And Arthur gets there just in time to get her out before the ghosts attack. But they don't know there's ghosts yet. But they try to leave, but all of the house is sealed. At this point, they realize Bobby is missing. They find the babysitter, but she lost Bobby along the way. And Bobby makes his way into the basement. I mean, when do you hear some ghost calling him to come into the basement? But you hear one ghost in particular telling him to run. No, he doesn't listen. He thinks it's Kathy playing tricks on him. He ends up getting snatched by the ghost of Cyrus. But eventually, the main group make their way into the basement. They have to coax Dennis into the basement. And then they have to coax him again to split up. And when they split up, Dennis finally gets Maggie to wear the glasses so she can see the ghost, and she sees the hammer. That ghost is amazing. But anyway, he also notices that the doors are open, including one of them for the Juggernaut. And he's like, if the Juggernaut's loose, we got to get out. Get the kids. We need out of this house. But the Juggernaut is currently stalking Arthur and Kathy. Kathy puts on her glasses just in time to see the Juggernaut barreling down on her. And he almost takes her out, but Kalina shows up with her flares and scares off the Juggernaut. So now you have the two groups. Oh, I jumped ahead. While Kalina and Arthur are arguing with each other, someone snatches Kathy. So now the groups are Arthur and Kalina, Dennis and Maggie, and they do eventually meet upstairs as they're trying to make their way to the library. And they once again get chased off by the Juggernaut. And once they make it safely to the library, that's when we understand that what's going on is there's a machine being built called the Balius device. Balius device. Designed by the devil and powered by the dead. And that the 12 souls have been collected to power the device. And the 13th ghost, as Kalina tells Arthur, is that as a failsafe to shut it down. He had to sacrifice himself to shut down the device and save his children. Dennis isn't happy about any of this, so he's like, there's got to be another way. And he talks Arthur into going out one more time and trying to find his kids. So they separate again. Dennis and Arthur, Maggie and Kalina go off. But Dennis and Arthur end up getting cornered by the hammer and Juggernaut. And Dennis traps Arthur behind a pane of glass and he dies, sacrificing himself. Meanwhile, Maggie's knocked out by Kalina, who's been working with Cyrus all this time, and Cyrus is still alive. And Arthur makes it up to the library when he sees his kids are stuck in the device. All of the ghosts are around it and powering it up because of a chant that's keeping them stuck in place. And what really needs to happen is that they give the power to the device, but it can only be activated by the 13th ghost, Arthur sacrificing himself to power the device. But Maggie ends up cutting the chant that was keeping them in place, and the ghosts kill Cyrus. Arthur makes the jump and saves his children. And because of everything Maggie was doing, it caused the machine to blow up. At the end, happy ever after is our stupid joke at the end.
What was the stupid joke?
That's it, I quit. It's not in my job description. I am out of here.
Alright. So now, I think, one, Tony Shalhoub is a fantastic actor.
I think he was perfect for the selection of this. Because Arthur isn't supposed to be some suave guy who can do physical things.
Yeah.
This is just a regular, run-of-the-mill dad put into an extraordinary situation. And he has to act to save his family. I think Tony Shalhoub is perfect casting. I think the casting across the board was perfect.
Yeah, I think everybody held their own for the roles that they were in.
You really forget how good Matthew Lillard can be.
You really can't. Like, his style of acting, definitely in this time frame, because, like...
This was in between Scream and Scooby-Doo.
There was nothing wrong with Scooby-Doo.
No, he was perfect in everything. You just kind of forget how good he is.
Like, that his career is, he's such an undervalued actor.
Yeah.
Another one, like, I totally forgot she was in it, Shannon Elizabeth. Another actress that probably is better than what she leads on, but her choice in a lot of roles were like, Here, it kind of worked. It was a good pick for her to be in this film.
I really enjoyed this opening, how they opened this movie. That pan shot of happy life. You hear the misery as you pan through misery.
Yeah.
And all the debts and bills and just crushing horror that's befallen this family.
And, I enjoyed how the ghosts look.
Oh, these ghosts and lore. All these ghosts have great lore, the looks of it. Which one's your favorite? I'm close between two.
Which two?
The Juggernaut. Oh, not Juggernaut. The Jackal and the Angry Princess.
Jackal. I'm going to Jackal.
The Jackal he's a beast.
Yeah.
I watched this when I was a kid. I would have put money on the Jackal being a girl. I didn't realize the Jackal was a guy until recently.
I would go with the Jackal. That would be my favorite
that
one.
box over his head and just demented way he just like clawed and just...
But you know what? The Juggernaut behind it would be like a good number two.
Oh, the Juggernaut and the Hammer.
Yeah. So those are my ghosts.
I would say they set up one ghost and they never paid it off. I'm disappointed that they didn't pay it off. The first one, the little boy with the arrow through his head. Anytime you saw him, like everyone's like, "Okay, we need to leave right now. Leave right now. Leave."
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it felt like you set up something really cool with him and they never paid it off.
Yeah, I agree with that because I remember that scene and I'm just like, what's now you got like the Juggernaut, you got the Jackal, and you have all these ones where their name alone is like, oh crap, we gotta go. But you got this boy with an arrow in his head, you're like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Why?
And Dennis is like, we're behind enemy lines, we have to go. The bound woman was terrifying. Anytime she showed up, the one who was being choked by the tie and her body was twitching, like, it was terrifying. That's unsettling.
So I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed the graphics of the ghost. I enjoyed the drama and the pain side of things. It's crazy because you have both versions of the main character, Cyrus. I just will say the main characters because since they have different names. Two different styles of being hurt, being down on their luck.
Yeah.
Arthur's going through a tragic event that hit them all at once. You have Cyrus from the original just not paying his bills on time.
Well, we talked about it like they tried humor to get you to like the original family, and while this one they went with the drama.
Yeah.
To get you to like this
and
family.
we were talking about that off camera where these films, even though one is original and remake, they went two opposite directions to achieve their goals.
This story feels much more fleshed out. There's much more meat on the bone in this one than the original.
More details.
Yeah.
And they explained what the 13th ghost was for.
And there was a reason for the 13th ghost.
Where, you never got that clarity in the original. So it felt like the original was just unfinished and not finished. Where this film is completely finished. They told the story they wanted. They explained things to you.
I love that house. The glass house. I live in that house. I don't care about the ghosts. If you do, you ghosts. I'm living here too.
I can see you 100% doing that.
Yeah.
Where, you know what, like, I'm more like, you could live in that style house. I would probably live in the original house. I'm like more of that Addams Family's type of area in this house where I'm just like, okay.
I don't care about the lack of privacy. That's your problem, not mine.
You don't care about privacy. I want walls around me.
I love the one track. There was a lot of great shots, camera shots in this. I love that tracking shot when Kathy was in the bathroom, and the camera tracked through the glasses, and then you see the bloodbath on the other side of it, and you see the angry princess behind her.
Right. This film did a lot.
I'll say there is a negative here, and yeah, I don't care about your happy ending. It was cute. No man, they should not have been able to see the mom. None of them were wearing glasses.
A plot hole.
Yeah, none of them were wearing glasses at the end of this movie.
And
they were able to see the mom standing on the side of the machine still.
That might alter it grade a little bit.
I do like the fact that I do like the fact that you see all the ghosts like heading off into the woods and disappearing. It's like, they're not going to their resting homes. They're going back to wherever they haunted before this.
They're going to kill.
They're going to start killing. That Juggernaut's not done. He's already added 39 kills.
Another plot hole.
I think a plot hole. It's just a funny moment.
What is the grade?
I'm giving this an A. I love this movie. I'll watch it anytime.
I would not be too far behind you. I would be like I'm giving it a B plus, but like 88, 89 type of B plus. You're right with the mom. They shouldn't have seen her. Then all the bills of the glasses.
Yeah.
But other than that,
that's your biggest role you put in this movie. You need glasses.
Yeah.
I don't care about your happy moment.
So, obviously, giving our grades, both are basically in the same range. We're probably only like points off. A, high B, close to A.
That puts us the winner.
The winner is the remake. But I do want to make this clear. Had they just told a slightly better story on the original would have had a better grade. I'm not the biggest fan of using comedy in the story arc, but when they did use it, it did make me laugh because I'm like, dude, she's on the phone, he's at work, and they're literally like trying to kick her off the chair so they can take the chair too. You got literally the boy wishing for furniture. Like, that's just tragic comedy right there.
That's my kind of comedy.
It really is. But the one thing that the remake did that the original, it told the whole story.
Yeah.
And it told why there was 13 ghosts. And above all, that's what helped the grade because it completed the story for me. So winner, 2001.
Next up on this thing, House on Haunted Hill.
I knew you were going to aim to do that because believe it or not, I was actually going to tell you when to do that because every time we do these classic movies, I see the original one. I'm like, I never got to watch the original one. So until next time.
Bye-bye.